Please join me in welcoming to the stage Mr. Sreekanth Nadella, MD and CEO, Kfin Technologies.
Very good morning. There was a riveting opening address by Bala, one of the tallest leaders we have in the fund management space in India. He's been our client for the longest time on many parts of it, and hopefully in times to come we'll do larger things together as well for the overall industry. Now this morning, this summit is all about innovation. Innovation to me is all about, pretty much is what distinguishes a leader from a follower. And to that extent, at the industry that we belong to, there are parts of it that we followed, many parts of the world, given we are probably the second or the third mover in the space of asset management industry. But the places where we have moved and spent considerable amount of time, we managed to start being the leader. And there are many aspects of it. For example, if you look at banking industry, UPI led the way, though we may have learned banking from many parts of the world. And in one of the recent meetings we've had with SEBI, one of the conversation topic was, how do we position from a capital market standpoint for India to be a leader, and what are the things that we can do together to make that happen? And the discussion went on a lot of things in terms of the changes we brought to the table, and so on and so forth. And it was a conversation with the chairperson, and it was all about what is the UPI moment for capital markets. And we kind of looked at the various asset classes, and there may not be one, there may be several. And it started with the secondary markets. And can we do T+3 into T+2, T+1 settlement, and now real-time settlement? I think we already led the way. US is trailing India today in terms of same-day settlement. And in all probability, by end of this year or early next year, we might just get into the real-time settlement as well, which probably is going to be the very first time in the world ever attempted. Similarly, what are the things that we can do in the mutual fund space? What are the things that we can do in the alternative space? Is what I think would define the coming decades of investment management in this country. Bala spoke about the growth of the mutual fund industry. Alternatives has been growing stupendously fast. I think the last 4 years had been a CAGR of 50%. Today, roughly about $100 billion assets under management, poised to become about 350, 360 over the next 5 to 6 years. Means another CAGR of 38 to 40% that you are seeing. These are numbers that are not usually heard of in industries. But even that seems like the industry is going to beat it, from the way the overall industry has, taken it up together to drive not just financialization, but then basically into the investment aspect of it. There is a golden GDP, per capita GDP number that we've all heard of, right? Roughly about $4,500 to $5,000. India's per capita income today is about roughly $3,000. And as we cross that, which is expected to happen sometime in 2027 to 2028, there is going to be a ton of money that's going to come out from every individual who was otherwise borrowing to savings in a bank, from savings to investments into mutual funds eventually into the alternate investments and the higher class assets. We also foresee not too distant a future when the equity mutual funds probably are going to get chipped away on one end from passives, low expense ratio, reasonably equal generating alphas, and a high alpha chasing alternatives from the other end. So the share of the actively managed equity mutual funds probably is going to take a little bit of shrinkage, and that's largely because of the alternate investment funds, and the amount of mobilization you're able to do and generate the alpha. Now, let me just move on to the innovation aspects of it. The fund administration, Bala briefly alluded to it, and I remember speaking in the very first the innovation summit that Equalifi and Aditya had started. Today, the total global assets under management is roughly $130 trillion, of which the alternatives is roughly $20 trillion. And the fund administration as a component as a business is roughly a $30 billion industry. There are a lot of fund administrators in the world. Some of them probably are here. The largest ones would be Bonnie Mellon, JP Morgan, Citco, State Street, who have you. And we at Kfin started our journey in the world of alternatives probably 8 years back, very few funds. We started about 20 in the last 3 years alone. We have been servicing little about 50% of all the funds that exist in the country, near about 500 out of 1,080 roughly registered and that have gone live. The journey that we started was not just to be an enabler for a rising industry, but with a slightly higher ambition, if I may, like you from industry have set up, your own ambition to be one of the fastest growing asset classes in the country, is to become the first fund administrator from India who is a globally relevant fund administrator. And that doesn't exist today. Forget about top 10. Even if you slice up the top 100 fund administrators in the world, you would not find a single Indian company in that space. And it's not just the hope and aim and ambition to get there, but I believe that we have been making credible steps in the direction. Some have already fructified, many to follow. The speed at which we are walking, I think the exoticism of the fund management itself is growing much faster than we could keep pace with. Not to forget the amount of regulatory changes that have come, which always tend to take us 2 steps back, because we are thinking about future and then we have to go back and then basically change a whole lot of platforming solutions to basically fit the requirements of the regulator. That said, I believe that we are on a very firm footing in terms of what we could do to help you as the principal, as the manufacturer of the product, and as the harbinger of alpha to the investors to the best extent that we could for the industry to grow. Broadly, again, wouldn't belabor much, everything, this is something that is pretty much known to most of you, pretty impervious technology landscape. Not too many probably operations and tech leadership is here in this room, but for a fund manager too, it's important to understand what slows you down, and what slows you down amongst the factors is also the fund administrator, and what slows us down is basically a whole lot of these things. Obsolete technologies, disparate systems, not talking to each other, a lack of congruence in terms of expectation versus what you actually get out of it, and the complexity associated with probably the most bespoke asset class in the world. Not only is every fund different, we have seen in a majority of the funds, there are no 2 investors who have the same structure. So where it brings us to is a situation where there can't be any ERP, a standardized industrialized model which basically drives the standardization, basically gives you the predictable outcome that you would want, and makes it a lot more person dependent and driven as against a system driven conversation, which is typically where, for example, today our primary secondary markets are there, or mutual fund industry is there. So we manage about roughly $250 billion worth of assets in mutual fund industry, process about 7 million transactions. The variation is subtle and manageable enough that we could process those many transactions. And I would think if I have to process those many transactions in alternative investment funds, I would probably need a 100,000 member operations team and a technology team which is far bigger than that. It is that bespoke. And that's what drives the challenge, but at the same time, challenge accepted. That's what Kfin Tech said, we're going to rise to the challenge and deliver the first platform in India, which is a truly integrated transfer agency and fund accounting solution with layers of digital all thrown into it, so that you would be able to have a peaceful time once you manage to design a product and sell it to your investor. This continues to be a work in progress, and I believe that this is going to be a work in progress in perpetuity. Not because there is a lot of gap that needs to be built in, but it is always trying to keep pace with the new structures that the industry is creating. Recently, I was in Singapore, and then I thought we have a lot of exoticism in India in terms of no 2 funds being alike, so on and so forth, only to realize that a lot of what we seem to be doing here in India is reasonably plain vanilla compared to the structures that we have in Singapore. I was talking to one of our guests, and then he told me that Singapore is the purple cow in terms of the exoticism and as to how different things can get. The levered structures that you have, the derivatives that go into it, and cryptos not to forget. To that extent, I think we are reasonably at a pace where that can be managed by the fund administration and then support you in your progress. And I remember in the very first meeting as well, Hemal was talking about the need for how the technology and the fund administration platforms and solutions have probably been at least 2 steps behind in terms of where you as a fund manager would want to be. I like to believe that we probably bridged 1 step of the gap, and our commitment to this industry is that in the next 6 to 9 months we would be 1 step ahead. And one of the primary reasons for that is we are now present in 7 other countries. That includes Hong Kong, Singapore, Philippines, Malaysia, and Thailand. And as we are supporting many new structures there, many new requirements there, we believe that a lot of those may get replicated, and possibly we will be able to at least help even the fund managers understand the various structures that exist elsewhere in the world which we are supporting, which hopefully you would be able to leverage as well. So broadly, the platform that I'm talking about is called Exalt, and some of you have already been migrated, and some of you are in the process of getting migrated from the old tech system. As I said, this is the first fully integrated TA-FA system in the country. It is a multi-currency, multi-geo, multi-lingual platform, and multi-asset, of course. So that makes it basically a globally relevant platform, and hence towards the direction of being the first global fund administrator from India. This is the first major step that we have taken. It has gone live in the month of February, and as I said, many of you are in the process of migration, and hopefully in time to come will reap the benefits of this fantastic holistic system. As you could see from the architecture, broadly you have the configurable workflows, which is very, very important. Today, near about 50% plus of the industry uses Kfin digital onboarding platform, which cuts across onboarding, whether it's individuals or trusts, whether it is NRIs, corporations, so on and so forth, which I think is very important. What used to be a 3-day process is now crunched to 4 to 5 minutes, and we believe that in time to come we'll crunch that even further. Regulation is something that is fast catching up with the industry of alternatives. Despite the fact that an investor in AIF is expected to be an informed investor as defined by SEBI, regulation, I'd like to believe that in time to come would more or less mirror the regulation that you have in mutual funds, which effectively then means that your ability to screen every single investor and at every single transaction level every single day is going to gain significant amount of prominence, and the platforms such as the AML screening platforms, the CFRs, the SCT reporting, there's a whole lot of things that need to happen. And many a well-meaning fund have a bit in the dust who have ignored regulation. And it is not something that I would expect a fund manager to lose sleep over on a day-to-day basis. It is for us to make sure that you are covered on all aspects on the compliance, and that is exactly where some of our platforms come to play as well. Investor portals, the portfolio overview and attribution. I think in this world, again, everybody invests in direct equities, into mutual funds, into the alternatives, into the national pension system, so on and so forth. Without knowing, everybody's exposure to a set of companies or a company is growing quite a lot more than they would understand, and that's largely because of the lack of attribution analysis in some form and shape. And we have, I like to believe, that created a wonderful model which helps both you as the fund manager, your relationship managers, and the end investors in terms of the attribution, and ergo take meaningful decisions as you do the portfolio rebalancing. This is a suite of a whole lot of things that come together, whilst Exalt is what we call as a platform. It has a lot of components, and components that are built on microservices architecture, which help you to take fit-for-purpose solutions which you can always stitch together. For example, if you already have an in-house TA platform, but maybe you need something on the insider trading platform, for example, so you take a Guardian. You would need something on the fund accounting, there is a separate platform that you would take it. And you want something specific to do AML, PML screening, then there's a separate platform. The idea is that either you can pick and choose what you would want, or ideally all of it together with a view to drive innovation. Now, innovation is what we bring to the table in terms of operations now, which is still a fairly mundane topic for most of the fund managers. I fully respect that, because you are more interested in creating the next best product and get to the next best investment class and deliver a fantastic amount of alpha. Innovation on that side is just as pertinent and relevant as it is for the core of the operations. We've just started the work in that front, taking a leaf from some of the past work we've done. A little bit of my lineage goes back to identifying oil reserves under the earth in my previous avatar, and One of the good ways that was done was basically go and drill, and then realize that, either there is none at all, or you find very little quantity of what you spend, probably $1 billion in, drilling, whether it's offshore rigs or onshore. And being part of a tech company, we created a simulation model, which basically went through the geospatial visualization, your climate structures, so on and so forth. And idea is that without actually drilling anything at all, what is the probability with which you can predict that there is a sizable amount of oil reserves under the earth? And that was a very successful platform we built for British Petroleum back in the day. Extrapolating it to this industry, what is it that we can do before we launch a product for us to understand the probability that this product is going to be successful in its launch, right? I mean, there are factors associated with that. For example, whether it's a private credit or you want to launch a Cat 2, Cat 3 fund, you can take into account, if you have big data models which can assimilate ton of that data in terms of the existing funds, the demographic, the recent investors, the number of people who have basically gotten into probably CXO stage in terms of the companies, number of IPOs that have gone into account, success or otherwise of other funds, throw in a whole lot of asymmetric variables into it, and predict with a reasonable sense of probability that your fund actually is going to be successful, provided you do A, B, C, D. Now, that is probably not going to fall in the product innovation category. It's not going to fall in the operations innovation category. But something that probably you would look at from a sales and marketing standpoint, what is my chances that the next fund that I'm going to be launching will be a huge success. So we're working on these kind of models, and I would appreciate and encourage you to push us for us to do many of these things. We may have challenges in processing a small transaction every once in a while. That should not deter us or stop us from creating the next best futuristic models that are there to help you grow the industry. These are a whole lot of things. I'm not going to go at length. We have more interesting topics to be discussed by the people who run this industry. But broadly to speak, our investments and our focus largely had been driving straight through automation. And this is a world that you probably are reasonably familiar with. The front office, investment operations, the accounting and the admin side of it. What components have already been straight through automated by Kfin through Exalt in its entirety. What is being done, which is basically what you would call here as a medium, my apologies. And the low where, obviously the human intelligence far supersedes that of any cognitive or a straight through automation, and then hence, probably will continue to remain an imminent domain of human intellectual capacity. But the idea is to be able to take a lot of work which individuals do today and make the system to do far better, right? For example, pro-trade compliance or pre-trade compliance and order management through a complete rule setup, you would not have to worry about going through whether a particular trade that you are punching is going to meet the limits that are set by yourselves, that are set by the fund manager, by the external from a regulatory standpoint, so on and so forth, and actually gets allocated to the right traders for the trade execution and so on and so forth. And the idea being that how much of that is a problem today, which we believe is quite a bit. You might be using a strong front-end terminal, but they all have limitations. They all come with significant change management costs associated with that. But through this one platform, you'd be able to do the front, middle, and the back office quite efficiently, you'd like to believe. Digital communications, over-communicate. There is no such thing as over-communication, as I was often told. Very, very important for us, both in terms of communicating with yourselves as the asset manager, with your partners, with the end investors. We have created platforms for the GPs, for the LPs, that Vishnu and I have already spoken about. We have now come up with a completely customizable statement of account generator, which means that you no longer are wedded to a statement which looks exactly the same, and you want to move your logos, you want to change a few fields here and there, you want to change whatever you would want. Current mechanism is that you reach out to the fund administrator, the administrator takes week, month, depending upon the changes, and you go live. And the idea is, can you by yourself do all of that, should you so want to, and then doesn't have to, waste your time running around the administration processes. And that's probably the statement of account, not just the analyzer, but the creation component itself. Data replication, high availability, these are again, just rudimentary roles that need to happen. You are expected to keep a copy of the data that we maintain for you. But the idea there too is that, you need not have to invest in infrastructure and technology specialists. And can we basically spin up a private cloud for you in real quick time, and then for you to have your golden copy of it, as and when the auditors and investigators would want to see that, you have in possession with you the data that you need at any point in time. Oops. Quickly moving on the data lake and warehouse, this is something that, this is how it looks, right? And the idea behind this is something that we have extrapolated from the mutual fund industry now into the alternatives. It should be live and kicking in about 4 to 5 weeks' time. The idea is to be able to generate not just the statutory reports, the regulatory reports, the reports that you need for your own consumption on a day-to-day basis from a BI standpoint, but have the data at fingertips for you to run your own customized data models to take immediate decision making. Now that could be regarding operations, that could be regarding sales and marketing, that could be regarding compliance, and it is your data, this is your platform, and you again can do everything on your own. The idea is that slowly and steadily we are moving to a model which may be commercially non-intuitive for an organization like us, but basically we are, handing over the keys to your own property, and you should be able to do a lot of those things yourselves. From the standpoint to be able to get the speed and the go-to-market that is so crucial in decision-making on a day-to-day basis. So this is our, there's a lot of English here, but quite often I'm asked in terms of, look, what's your bent of mind on Gen AI? And in almost all cases that we see in the world today, Gen AI manifests itself in the form of probably an intelligent chat bot, right? Which basically trawls through a whole lot of information and then brings you what you want on a natural language progressing. Now we, on the other hand, because we work on an enterprise, B2B conversations, not so much on B2C, we look at our world quite differently. But when we look at our world, we look at through your lens, because end of the day we are supporting you as a principal, and then you have a responsibility towards your relationship managers, to your partners, to your investors, to the regulators, so on and so forth. And the idea is how much of that could easily be implemented, what you see here, whether it is a sentiment analysis, whether it is a risk management aspects of it, portfolio construction, advisory. We don't do advisory, we don't do portfolio management, that's not our role, but that's what you do best. And for that, what is it that we can do as a solutioning to help you grow is definitely our, we're spending considerable amount of mind share in that particular, piece of work. We have specialists who are working in that area, and then hopefully in time to come, we'll have something more credible to show you. At this moment in time for mutual funds, it's ready, live and kicking. We believe that it should be relatively easier in the alternative space, just from the standpoint that the quantum of data is a fraction of what it is there. And much of the business rule logic does, appear to be similar, if not same. So to that extent, apart from the innovation in terms of the platforms that are required to sell service, for your clients, please also expect from us, a lot of these on the Gen AI topics. And as always, we fully appreciate and welcome you to co-partner with us to be able to make some of these things industry first, not just in India, but probably everywhere in the world. This is a slide that my CTO really wanted me to present. Half of it even I don't get it, but then it suffices to say that underneath it all, what you see as a simple platform is the gory schematics of how the data crawls through a myriad set of complex systems and solutions to help you create a highly configurable engine where you can do it at a fund level, at an investor level, at an RM level, at a currency level, at a structure level, so on and so forth. It's complex. Let me just put it, to keep it very simple. I find creating the Exalt platform for alternative investment industry to be probably 3x more complex than the one that we've created for mutual fund industry. Not because of scale, it's just the variety of it all and how quickly it changes from point A to point B. And the idea is every time a change happens, you can't sit and rewrite a code, which is complex too. The idea is how quickly can you configure it through drag and drop boxes as against writing code, and hence give the power of change back to you for you to create the products and solutions that you really want to create for your customers. There's a whole lot of stuff on cloud. One of the things that we are proud to have accomplished in the recent past is about the virtualization and the tokenization, which is something that probably you would want. You deal with the HNIs and the ultra HNIs, you would want anonymity, you would want the privacy. You may not even want the fund administrators like us who handle your data to know exactly who the investors are and it is in the right remit. And the idea then is if you have virtualization as a concept in in Aadhaar, for example, you have a virtual Aadhaar number, so on and so forth. Why not here? So that solution is live and kicking for us. So you should be able to completely, you have a virtualized and anonymized name and, the PIP related information. And to that extent, you can be, very, very assured in terms of the safety and security of your clientele to be entirely with you and then with nobody else. Again, that is something that came as a requirement from one of our clients, and then we continue to take and encourage you to tell us what you want for your clients, and we will never be a step short in making sure that happens real quick. That's where I'm going to end. There's a lot more here, but then I'm on top of the hour, and the purpose of this summit, of course, is for driving innovation in the alternate investment space. Fund administration continues to play a key role. And Kfin Tech is very, very proud to have partnered with Aditya and Equalifi, and to have this august presence of all of you, who coming every quarter. That gives me a great deal of confidence that we are doing something right for you to be expending your time here. And we really would want to also change the format along the way. Probably Aditya was talking about driving boot camps and masterclass sessions. I think today we have 2 masterclass sessions later during the day, which will go beyond the high-level esoteric conversations you've just had now into very detailed specifics, which are also shared by some of my team members. I really look forward for you all to stay through the end of it all, and well, I'm going to be here to listen to each of you leaders speaking about the industry and then what it has in store for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Nadella, for those inspiring words. Your insights have truly set the stage for what promises to be an enlightening and engaging day. So thank you.